shot using letrozole and progesterone pills. So you guys kind of have like an idea of symptoms that might come up, what this kind of does to your body. From my experience, this might not be your experience. I also believe that I had a chemical pregnancy this cycle, so that's going to affect my symptoms as well. I did not get the same symptoms that I'm going to go over with you when I was just on letrozole and the sugar shot. So I'll kind of backtrack. We have been CTCing or trying to conceive for 2 years now. And in this 2-year time, there was a year where I didn't get my period at all. In that time, I found out that I had PCOS, and that was the reason that I wasn't getting it. Finally, with Provera, we were able to jumpstart my cycle, and I've been able to have my cycle since then. I actually did get it naturally first, and then it was jumpstarted again. Because there was like a little lag somewhere, but I did get it naturally first. So we got on this journey, we hadn't been able to conceive, we got sent to a specialist, so we've been seeing a specialist for almost a year now, I would say since like February of this year, so maybe not quite a year, we're in August. But what we did at first is the same thing we're doing now, so we're doing timed ovulation. So basically, you go in, they do blood work, they do a transvaginal ultrasound to look at the size of the follicles that you have. So you start on like day 3 of your cycle, you go in there, they look at it, and they go, okay, you can start the letrozole. And you take letrozole for 5 days in my case. I will say that every single cycle that I've taken letrozole, I've had weird, vivid dreams. So that is the only symptom that I've ever got from the letrozole, because it is a symptom that I've gotten from it, and, you know, strange. And then at day 10 of the cycle, we go back, they check the sizes. Sometimes we have to go back in 2 days, and another 2 days, and another 2 days, until the follicles are just the right size. And then we can use the trigger, you do the baby making, you hope for the best, right? So this last cycle, my doctor wanted to try progesterone pills as well. They're suppositories, which is uncomfortable in a sense, but it's really the leakage that is the most uncomfortable. So if you get put on the progesterone suppositories, you get leaky, and it's usually a brown substance. You also see out like white flakes from the casing that is around the progesterone pills. I know this is TMI, but you clicked on a video about trying to get pregnant, so I think you expect the TMI. So that is what we did this cycle. So at the beginning of August, I have my computer here with all my computers. We triggered on August 2nd. So likely I ovulated on the 4th. They say about 36 hours afterwards is when your ovulation will be. And on the 4th, and then also on the 5th more intensely, I had a very intense pain on my right side, on my right ovary, and that is the side that had the big follicle that was the dominant follicle we were trying to trigger. So it makes sense. So maybe I actually ovulated late, but it probably did start on the 4th. So right after that, you know, I think a few days later is when I started the progesterone, right? So on August 6th, I started to get nausea and fatigue. I was so tired. The progesterone pills are supposed to make you tired, and at this point I wasn't exhausted. I was just tired. I was reading up on it. It said like maybe take it like a little bit earlier, maybe sleep through some of the exhaustion. So I tried doing that. It just seemed to help a little as we went on. On August 7th, was when I started having diarrhea, and I feel like I've had it ever since. Everybody in my flow app has also been having August 9th, so this is like, 7 days past the trigger. I started having brown spotting when I wiped, and my boobs got bigger. I could feel them kind of stretching and a bit of soreness, and then I started having backache. At this point, like the brown spotting, it could either have been the progesterone, or perhaps I'm early spotting or implantation. Wasn't really sure. And I, taken everything with a grain of salt because I'm not trusting that I'm going to get pregnant because it's been so long, and I don't have that trust in my body to do this at this point. But I was hopeful. I felt really good about this cycle, and I really thought, this is it, we're going to do it, right? And I will say, I knew the trigger shot worked. As you can see over here, we have some pregnancy tests. I was testing it out. I will probably put a close-up of this. But you can see through day 1 through day 8 past the trigger, there are some definite lines there. So the trigger worked. That's showing the trigger is coming out of my system. It was pretty strong that whole time. I was like, is this ever going to fade? It did start fading. There are some faint lines at 9 and 10. And then 11, 12, 13, 14, there's like extremely faint lines that I feel like I could see that maybe not everybody else could see. And I continued testing after that to see, am I going to get pregnant? Is this the next pregnancy going to come? And unfortunately, it was not shown on here at all. There were no faint lines coming. But at this point, I'm having a bunch of symptoms that are telling me I'm pregnant. Now, is it just the progesterone? Was it the chemical pregnancy? I don't know. But at this point, I'm having nausea. I'm getting, like, literal exhaustion. Like, I forget exactly what day, like, the exhaustion started. But I was like, falling asleep on the couch at, like, 6 or 7 at night. And I was like, I cannot stay awake. And usually I go to bed around, like, 9, 9:30, sometimes 10. I don't stay up late. I get up at like 5, 5:30 every morning practically. Weekends maybe I'll sleep until 6, but not even that typically. So at this point I'm like, man, there's something going on. And it was more extreme than when I first started taking the progesterone. So I was like, I feel like it's progesterone. Like I feel like I'm pregnant or something, right? So I'm starting brown spotting when I'm peeing, or when I'm wiping, and a little my pee on the 10th, still having backache, and then my boobs started to feel heavy and were sore, and they felt really heavy at night on the 10th. So again, that's 8 days past, so like, that could be about the time that you could implant. That's like 8 DPO at that point, so it's like, maybe these are pregnancy symptoms coming up. And then it seems like on the 11th that my areolas and nipples started to get darker, so I'm like, okay. And I started to get really thirsty, and then the need to pee a lot came out. So, I mean, those go hand in hand. It's like, I'm thirsty, I'm drinking, water goes thirsty, you're peeing. But even when I wasn't peeing, or even when I wasn't drinking like that, I was peeing like that. So I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this as well. And then smells were also getting smellier by the 12th, which would have been like 10 weeks ago. So at this point, I'm like, I don't know, I feel like something's happening. It's obviously not coming up on the pregnant test, although there's still like these faint lines. So these faint lines over there from like 9 to 11, 12, those were there during the test window, so I'm like, what is going on? Maybe I still have the trigger in me. A lot of people that I saw online, the trigger goes out by like 8, sometimes 6, like super early. So I was like, who's calling with me? I don't like metabolize through it as quickly as other people, but everybody is different. So they do say to wait like 14 days for that trigger to get out. So therefore, on day 15, I took my first early detection test. I was like, I feel like I'm pregnant, I want to take a test. Now when I took this test, it had that very faint line that you could hardly see. Like, it was a real split check. And my husband could see it in the right, yeah, I could see it. And it came up during the test window, so I knew, like, truly it was there. But at 15 days past trigger, I'm like, okay, it's there, but is that still the trigger, right? I'm like, I'm not really sure. I know it should be out of my system, but this is an early detection. Like, is it still be out of my system with an early detection? I mean, probably, but I don't know. So at this point, like, I wasn't trusting that I was pregnant, but I was kind of hopeful. I was like, okay, so maybe. Now, I only got 2 early detection tests at the time, so I was like, well, I'm going to save the other one for my actual test date. So the day that I did this, 15 days past trigger, 17 PCO, that was a Saturday, and I had to wait till Tuesday to actually take my test for the clinic. Now, on Sunday night, I got red spotting really quickly. Like, if I wasn't paying attention, I wouldn't even have known that had appeared. So I was, like, so scared I was going to get spotting when I peed, because usually that means my period's coming. Ever since I started the fertility stuff, that's what happens before my period comes. So I started to get that spotting, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, I think this is it, I'm getting my period. Now, the next day, I went to, like, see, like, okay, like, I'm going to bleed. So it started off just, like, my period kind of starts off, like, very light. I wouldn't have needed really more than 1 panty liner. So at that point, it's still kind of iffy, but I'm like, this is part of my period. And I was having such pain in my lower stomach, like, I couldn't function, like, it hurt so much. I got out of work early on Mondays typically, and as soon as I got out of work, I was like, I can't do anything. It hurts so bad. And I contacted my clinic that day as well and be like, I think I started a period, like, what do you guys want me to do with the protocol? And they're like, keep taking the progesterone and take your test tomorrow. If it's negative, you stop the progesterone. If it's positive, then we go for it. So I'm like, all right, I mean, that's what I said to do. So then the next day comes along, I pee in a cup so I could do the test, and it's just pee and blood. It's just pee and blood. And I'm like, this is gross. This is absolutely gross. And I was like, there's no way I'm pregnant. These pregnancy tests are not going to say anything. So you can see on the pregnant ones, like, the last one, the 18 days past, there's like nothing there, and the test is a little, like, tinted because I was on my period. But if you look hard enough, there is a line, but is that line just there because, I don't think it showed up in the test window. I didn't see anything in the test window, so obviously I didn't take this line for anything. But I'm just saying, like, did it show up because of the pee? Being red, or did it show up because I had some, of the hormones? I don't know. But I did also take an early detection one, and now you can really not see it. I'm just putting on a story at light you can, but the coloring makes it easy to see. But if I can add a picture right here, I'll show you. There was clearly a line where it wasn't like as significant as this other line that's on the test right now that you can see. It was more faint, but it was darker than the previous early detection one we had. So I was like, well, that's weird. That's clearly a positive. Clearly. And my husband took one look at it and was like, yeah, you don't even have to squint at it. You can see that from far away. So yeah, that's a positive test. We both saw it with our eyes, so I know I'm not crazy. And I know there was a line there. And a lot of people have bad stuff to say about the blue test. And I will say, I actually thought I was buying a red dye test when I bought it. It turns out it was blue dye, so it's my bad. But that's, it showed up in the test window. There was a blue line there, and it was very clear, and you could see it. I mean, it was not bright, but you could see it. So at this point, like, I'm like, all right, I gotta call the clinic. But also, at the same time, the pain in my stomach hurt so much. Like, I was, trying to work out, and ow, it hurt to walk. Like, it was so painful, and that night was so painful. And I was like, there's no way I'm pregnant. This hurts too much. But, I told my clinic, I called them, and I said, hey, the early detection test has a positive, so they sent me for blood work, and yesterday I got my blood work, and there was no pregnancy hormones there, which, I was kind of expecting at that point. I'm not really disappointed per se, because I was expecting it, because I knew I was on my period and that something was happening. But because we got the positive early detection test, it indicates that I had a chemical pregnancy. The thing with urine HCG levels is that they take longer to get out of your system than the blood. So it's filtering right through your blood, and then I think through your liver and kidneys, if I remember correctly, and then it's going into your pee. So it makes sense that I could still get a positive on the test, even though it's not in my blood anymore. So that is kind of the symptoms that I went through. It's hard to say, again, if these are, the chemical pregnancy really amps things up, or the progesterone is with all of this. I mean, I hope that it was rather the chemical pregnancy that was causing so much pain in my pelvic area, the lower stomach, because that's just too much for me. And I rather think it's that caused it, right? But I just wanted to tell you guys about this, so I know that I looked up a lot of videos while I was in this 2-week wait, which is the first time that I really looked up videos that people have made to talk about this and to see their experiences. And it kind of helped me to just hear them and know that people were going through similar things and when people felt certain symptoms. So I hope this helps you as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.